Hello everyone. So recently I got a cheap version of the RS3M V5, which is the standard with dual adjustment system, so springs and dual adjustment. And now I'm going to review it and tell you all the tiny details you never asked me about. So this cube is very light. It's very fast out of the box, fast and papery, and it kind of reminds me of a Melon. So let's see how it differs from the ball core version. You can see the matte plastic here and the UV coated plastic for the ball core. So first of all, the ball core feels more solid. The walls of the parts are literally more thick because of the coating, and it overall feels more premium. This one is very light. And what I was really interested in was the magnets that I used in this model. So let's check the magnets. I remember when I first got an RS3M Super V1, I got the standard version and the ball core version. And the ball core version had thinner magnets than the standard one. And actually it resulted in even overall weaker magnet feel. Here, the magnet strength I can feel is pretty similar between these models, and the only difference in the feel is that in the ball core, the magnet strength is kind of more distributed than here, where it is just a magnetic snap. So let's open a piece and see. So this magnet is 3 by 1 millimeter. And for the corner, it is a 3 by 1.5 millimeter, so it is just a little bit thicker. Now let's open the ball core. So the UV coating actually kind of fuses together these pieces, so I had to open this one piece. So here, as we can see, it is the same magnet, 3 by 1. And here, this corner was actually like this from the beginning, and it is pretty annoying because when I drop the cube on the mat after I finish the solve, it often gets split like this, and it doesn't happen with the standard version, so this is something you can take into account too. But all the other corners that are fused together by the UV coating don't do that. So here we can see that the magnet, that the magnet is actually thinner. So in the ball core we have 3 by 1 millimeter magnets in both corners and edges, and in the standard version we have 3 by 1 in the edges and 3 by 1.5 in the corners. So the magnets between corners and edges are stronger in this one, so this explains the overall pretty similar magnetic strength between these cubes. Now let's put them all back together. And yes, here of course we have the corner magnet. I don't know what the thickness of it is. I mean, it goes deeper inside, but we can check this one. I think it can go like 3 millimeters into the corner foot. So maybe it is like 3 by 4 or something like that. But the corner magnets, corner core magnets are not strong in the ball core here. Let's put it back in. Okay, so this is the edge. And I will leave these pieces here to compare the V5 with the iconic RS3M 2020. So I was really interested to see what the differences are between them, and now we will look into it. So the pieces are very similar. So the tracks, I think they are totally identical, but the pieces are just a little different. So here, I don't know if you can see that, but here the contact surface is up to this line. So this part doesn't contact with the corners here, but this is pretty worn out. So it is an old cube of mine. And on the V5, this surface is totally flat, and here we have grooves, the dragon scale pattern. Now let's look at the corners. So the corner, the internal piece design is also a bit different here. So it is mostly held together by these prongs and these holes. And these little, I don't know, guides, they are very small, but it actually holds together pretty nicely. So let's compare the corners. Again, the tracks are identical, with one exception of this protruding thing. So I guess they changed the molds to make all these corner feet for all the versions with a hole for the magnet. And now for the piece. We can see the dragon scale pattern here and a tiny groove here in the 2020 version. And there are also these tiny kind of indentations here and no such things here. Now let us open the piece and check the internal structure. So you can see that the plastic of the 2020 version is much thicker, and these guides are much thicker and bigger here, whereas this, the structure is much thinner and lighter. And the magnets, okay, so this is 3 by 1.5 millimeters, and this is 4 by 1.5. So the magnets are bigger in the 2020, but the plastic is thicker as well. And the corner foot, the corner stock is the same thing. Like exactly the same, except for this part. Okay, let me see. So orange goes here. And green goes here. Now let's compare the edges. So this is 2020. Dragon scale. Oh, I forgot to tell about these grooves here. And actually the contact surface feels much larger in the 2020. It feels like there's more friction going on there. And so this cube, while it was really fast out of the box, I remember slowing it down with weight 5, I think. It pretty quickly it became sluggish. So this cube is pretty heavy. I measured its weight. It is 86 grams, and this one is 68 grams. So the difference is pretty striking. Now let us look at the centerpiece. So in the 2020, the centerpieces were the same colors. They were colored, and here they are primary. And of course, in the maglev version, they are purple, and in the ball core version, they are teal colored. So here we can see that the shape of the centerpieces is basically the same, except for these corners. There is a little hole here, and here it is solid. And of course, the shape of the center caps also changed. So now the center caps, they fit more snugly. They have a more like, I don't know, maybe modern shape or melon-like shape, if you want to put it like this. So you can see the thickness of the plastic. Like this one is very thick, like 1 millimeter thick, I guess. And this one is very thin. And you can see the difference in plastic thickness here too. So very thin on the V5 and pretty thick on the 2020. The adjustment system is again the same, but in the V5 they actually used washers under the screw heads. So this one doesn't have any spring noise out of the box, and I didn't have to lube the core. And this one had a pretty persistent spring noise, which I had to lube and relube and flip the springs, whatever. So my overall impression is that the V5 is definitely an upgrade to the 2020. Well, it's not like you should upgrade if you use the 2020 and are happy with it, but if you're going to get a new cube in 2023, or I may also say 2024, because the new year is really soon, I'd recommend getting this one. The reasons for getting the 2020 version is if you like more hefty cubes, if you like heavy cubes with thick plastic, with more like low-pitched sound, or if you generally like this model better, or maybe if you want to peel off the sticker and have it without logo. But here you can remove the logo pretty easily if you can get a very fine sandpaper, like 2000 grit works fantastic. You can just remove the logo and yeah. So sound test. I'm locking up a bit. Okay. So this cube is louder. It is also higher pitched. It feels just a bit snappy, but actually when I tried to solve on this cube, it also feels rather snappy. So it's not like totally effortless, smooth corner cutting, but it is good enough. And it feels pretty light. It, I would say it lacks momentum just a little bit. So like the inertia is not high enough, but maybe that's just because I'm too used to ball core cubes now. So now I'll tell you about the differences between these two. So the ball core is obviously heavier because it has more magnets, and it also has maglev, and it is UV coated. So the weight of it, I think it is like 76 maybe grams, 78. So it is still lighter than the 2020 version. It is overall it feels kind of more premium. And the ball core, well, my first impression was that this ball core does nothing because it doesn't auto line like at all. But actually it adds just very slight difference in kind of momentum in the turns, because you don't turn like this, you flick, right? And like here it is easier to overturn or underturn, and here it kind of corrects you in a very subtle way. And I find myself corner cutting less on the ball core cubes, even with such a weak ball core. So I can feel how my hands are going like in more squarish trajectories compared to this one. This one is really good. So what I like about it, what I like more in this one than in the ball core, is that the pieces hold together pretty nicely. And this cube, it is not UV coated, so you won't have to worry about tiny scratches, chips, or whatever. So I have seen pictures, and I also have a couple cubes where the UV coating has chipped just a little bit. So like with UV coated cubes, I prefer keeping them in boxes or in pouches and overall caring more about them than about regular cubes. This one is just regular plastic. You don't have to care about it too much. It is cheap, and whenever you get tiny scratches, they just get kind of glossed over with your hands. So unlike the UV coating, if it chips, this chip stays forever. So you can't like polish it with your fingers, polish it away. One more thing I would like to talk about is the molding quality. So let us check the blue sides. So here's the 2020, RS3M 2020, and here's the V5. So the 2020 obviously is already glossed over, and you can see these sink marks, like this circular molding mark here, and these tiny imperfections. And on the V5, the molding quality is higher. So I really like the looks of this cube. It looks really clean. There are no gaps, nothing. Like, it is very smooth and overall pleasing cube. So it will gloss over. I think I've done maybe 300 or 400 solves on it, so it is fairly broken in. One thing I want to add is that you want to get lube with this cube. Like, it is good without lube, but it is too fast out of the box. And I compressed it, I think, to 5 clicks, which made it really snappy. So when you compress the spring becomes stronger, and the cube snaps at corner cutting. It doesn't cut like effortlessly, it snaps. And this can be pretty disrupting in your solves. So personally, I prefer to slow down cubes with lube. And for this cube, I use candy cane from Speedcube Shop. I put, I think, 4 drops of it. And after a while, I just cleaned half of the lube because the cube was breaking in. It was getting to more like reasonable speed. And I also reset the adjustment to 0 clicks, as I prefer in most of my Moyu cubes. Yeah, so get this cube, get lube. So if you're on a budget, and obviously you can you buy this cube if you're on a budget. So I always recommend GAN lubes, the new GAN lubes number 2 and number 3. So when the cube is totally new, out of the box, it is very fast. You want to use number 3. It is the thickest GAN lube, and it will be controllable and smooth, and like the effortless of corner cutting will increase with lube. And as it breaks in, as it gets just a little bit slower, you may want to use number 2 alone or in combo with number 3. So it will be just really good cube, really nice. Well, so I guess this is it for the review. If you have any questions about these cubes, feel free to leave them in comments. Now I think I'll do an AO5.